Hi guys and girls, I'm Obsidian Ant and welcome back to Elite Dangerous. This is the final week of the beta for Chapter 1 of Beyond, and just yesterday Frontier released an update bringing the beta to version 3. So this update included a number of things, mostly fixes, but there were a few changes in there, and since there's also been a few updates from the developers in terms of posts to the forum, talking about things they want to include and change for the game's release. This includes changes to the material limits, which are going to be increased somewhat, and it also includes some upcoming changes to crime and punishment. We'll look at all of this in this video. To start with then, let's focus on some of the changes that arrived with Beta 3. One of the nice changes that's coming with Chapter 1 of Beyond is the new gameplay surrounding megaships, which should in the future be extended to other space structures. Now, with that gameplay, there's some associated rewards and payouts, but many players have found them to be a bit low, so Frontier are increasing these. And a part of that will be the introduction of materials as possible rewards from the cargo bays. There's also going to be an increase in data material payout that you get from data terminals and comms arrays, which at the moment were a bit low, so a change there is very good. Now, the megaships are also defended by turrets, and you can hack these and discover the generators and then disable the generators powering down the turrets. They don't stay powered down for very long, so that again is changing. The downtime is being slightly increased. One of the big reasons for introduction of gameplay around megaships is to use it as piracy-based gameplay. And so Frontier have thought about this and introduced silent running as a valid tactic around the ships. So with this in mind, when you use limpets against the megaship, as long as you're in silent running, it will no longer trigger a crime. However, it will still result in an authority response, therefore giving you a limited time to do what you need to do around the ship before you have to get out of there or else get yourself involved in combat. Now, to make silent running a somewhat risky proposition, both recon limpets as well as hatch breakers will now generate heat, therefore causing a rapid heat build-up when you're in silent running. Beta 3 also came with a number of changes and fixes to various ships, the most notable of which was a pretty big buff to the Type 7, which had its jump range increased by giving it a size 6 FSD. This meant that the Lakon Type 7 was able to jump 60 light years. I say was because that is now being rolled back. So whilst Frontier do want the Type 7 to have a greater jump range, 60 light years in their eyes at least seem to be a bit too much. So they're returning it to having a Class 5 FSD and lowering the mass of the ship instead, which means that the range of the ship will still see an increase. The Type 7 is also receiving an optional size 2 cargo slot, making it a little bit more versatile, and the power plant, or the power distributor rather, is also going to see an increase in class size as it's going from a 3 up to a 4. So then some pretty good changes for the Type 7 that should make it a much more useful ship. And whilst on the subject of ship changes, Frontier have confirmed that there will be some changes to the ASP Scout at some point, but they won't be a part of this update. Chapter 1 of Beyond is coming with a pretty big overhaul of the crime system, and for many people that seems to be a bit problematic, and for many other people it's a serious benefit. At any rate, Frontier are not done in tweaking how this is going to work, and they've got 5 new upcoming changes to the system. The first 2 of these are changes to the interstellar factors. Now, the interstellar factor are people you can find and go to in order to pay off your bounty as well as your fines. Now, the first of these changes is that interstellar factors will no longer charge a premium in order to clear those bounties and fines. The way it's worked in beta up until this point is that if you want to pay off your bounty, you have to pay a little bit extra in order to do that, otherwise wait for ship destruction and then pay it there. So ultimately, this change does make it a little bit easier to use the interstellar factors, although this is perhaps where the second changes come in. You'll now no longer be able to pay off your fines unless your notoriety is at 0. Now, notoriety is a stat that's applied to the player when they commit murder, and the more they murder, the higher their notoriety will increase. The higher it increases, the greater the authority response will be against you, and the greater your fine will also be, or your bounty rather. So yep, you're going to have to wait for your notoriety to reduce all the way down to 0 before you can pay off your bounty at an interstellar factor. And do keep in mind that if you have a bounty or a fine, many station services will be locked off from you within the jurisdiction of the crime you committed. But how does notoriety decrease? Well, originally one of the ways of that happening was to be destroyed by authority ships. But there's now a new way of decreasing your notoriety, and it's very simple. You just have to wait around for an hour. Every hour that passes, your notoriety will decrease by a single point. and that is an hour of gameplay time rather than an hour of real time. So I suspect it means many players will believe in their ships logged in for the timer to decrease. So yeah, it's a very easy way to reduce notoriety. You simply leave your account logged in overnight, and in the morning you'll be freshly awakened to a notoriety of 0. Fortunately though, Frontier have confirmed that all of these numbers and stats are tweakable on the live server, so that certainly means these timings could change depending on how players treat them. Sticking with the subject of bounties for the moment, a change has been made to the kill warrant scanner, and to be honest, it is a bit of a perplexing change. Currently, the way the KWS works is that when you scan a ship, you'll be able to collect all bounties on that ship from all jurisdictions, whereas if you don't scan it, you can only collect the ship's bounties for the current jurisdiction. And this is going to totally change with the new KWS. Instead, when you scan the target ship, the KWS will scan all bounties in all jurisdictions, but only award you the highest bounty as opposed to all of them. In my eyes, at least then, this change kinda renders the kill warrant scanner largely redundant, and I'd certainly be curious to see Frontier's thinking process on this one. The dark side of planets. That's really a question for explorers and anybody that likes visiting planetary surfaces. Currently, on the live version of the game, the ambient light kind of brightens up as you approach the dark side of the planets, so in effect, instead of staying very dark, they kind of get a little bit lighter. Now, I've shown before in previous videos it is possible to find dark areas on planets, but generally speaking you have to be facing away from the galactic core. It's an odd sensation then to head down towards a dark surface to see it brighten up as you descend. Now, many players thought their prayers had been answered in regards to this when beta arrived for Beyond. It turned out that dark side of the planet remained dark as you descended, but unfortunately that's not to be the case and was just a bug with the lighting system. So currently then on the beta server, and this will be on the live version of the game as well, as you descend down to dark planets, the ambient light will again increase. However, there is some good news for this. Frontier have confirmed once again this week that at the end of the year in Chapter 4 of Beyond, the overhaul of the lighting system should address this issue. Another change scheduled to arrive in the next few days is an improvement or further improvements to the material storage system. In beta, it's currently set to 100 units per material, and that's both physical material as well as data. This is going to change and be reflected in different storage capacities for each tier. So Tier 1 materials will be able to store 300 units, Tier 2 materials will be able to store 250 units, Tier 3 materials 200 units, Tier 4 materials 150 units, and Tier 5 materials are going to remain at 100 units of storage. Now, the new storage system was a bit of concern for some deep space explorers who like to stack up their FSD boost synthesis. The changes meant they would now be able to stack far fewer than previously. So with this in mind, Frontier have made changes to the FSD boost recipe, and you can see these on the screen right now. Effectively, the requirements for the hard to find materials have been reduced, whilst they have added in a few more common materials. So overall, this means players will continue to be able to stack a good number of boosts without too many issues. So, as we know, the beta is due to come to an end on the 9th of February, just a few more days of testing left then. And as yet, there's still no release date for Beyond the Chapter 1 onto the live servers. That then brings us to an end of this video. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys and girls next time.